Welcome back to today's recap and look ahead. We're going to do things a little differently today. Nothing too crazy. We're just going to be a little bit more ETF focused. It's the last 2 weeks of August. Things slow down drastically. Less is more. And in this situation, you probably don't want to be pushing either with size or with putting on too many positions. Because again, it's the last 2 weeks of August. Volatility pretty much goes into the toilet. On top of that, you get a situation where there could be liquidity pockets only because of the fact that volume and liquidity just aren't there like they are during normal times of business. With that said, let's just dive right into it. So we're going to start with the S&P. S&P cash looking good. Nothing really to write home about over here. We had that move down, which they bought it up, and obviously we're moving back up. We're making new all-time highs now. You have to kind of look at it, or at least the way I'm looking at it, which I think is good advice, is that never short a dull market. Right now, we're in the last 2 weeks of August, which is basically a dull market. There could be fireworks coming into September, but I think for now, like I said in the beginning, less is more. You want to be a little bit more stingy in your entries, stingy with what you put on, stingy with the size that you put on. Manage your risk appropriately and keep your expectations in check because, again, not a lot of people are around, so things do have a habit of slowing down. Let's look quickly at NDX. Same deal, looking fine. Look at Nicey Fang. Also looking fine. Look at semis. Semis looking fine. One that was actually moving a little bit more interesting this week was the Russell. What's interesting, and I like to point this out, is that you have large and mega cap, which is really more S&P and NDX focused, all sitting and making new highs. But you have the Russell, which is really domestic-based companies, is nowhere near its all-time highs. So there is a disconnect here between how American-based domestic businesses are doing versus multinational mega and large cap stocks are doing, companies are doing. So just keep that in the back of your mind. One of the things I like to keep on the radar is you could usually tell if it's a risk on day based off of how the Russell is doing. So if you see the Russell is rocking and rolling, and usually that signifies a risk on day. So it's just a tip you can carry forward. All right, let's just get into some of the ETFs. XLE, there's a lot going on. We talk about it in Commodity Corner in terms of the summit. So I'm not going to regurgitate it over here. You can reference that. It'll be at the end of the video. You can reference that video for thoughts on energy. But the XLE is really not doing much right now. OIH, same thing. XOP, same thing. A lot of this is wait and see. Really, I would be very careful here in energy. You really have to see how this thing plays out. But for more information, you can reference that video. Let's go to the IBB. IBB looking good. Nice clean breakout, looking really nice. Probably get up to around 140. Maybe even start pushing up to 142, but it's looking really, really nice. Obviously, on the day count rule, it's a little bit harder to buy it up here because you're in day 4. So usually the day count rule is day 1, you initiate your position. Day 2, day 3, you're trimming and trailing. The day 4, you're not really adding anymore. So you're waiting for pullbacks. So I would wait for a retracement here. Maybe you can get down to the 8-day or you can get down into this 135, 136 area. That might be a good spot to start looking to buy, but keep it on your radar. Let's look at the XBI. Same thing, looking good as well. Let's look at 2 more ETFs. Let's look at the GDX and the GDXJ. The GDX looking good, looking much better. The GDX is looking much better than gold. So if you're looking to play gold, it's probably here as opposed to being in the actual GLD or in the GC futures. This is, I would say, a much better place to be. Let's look at the GDXJ quickly. Same type of deal. The miners and the junior miners are a much better place to be right now than in the actual commodity. Let's look at 2 names before we get into our FANG names. The reason why we're going to do it this way, as opposed to going through all these names, is because really the market is moving on Mag 7 or the FANG names and a couple of others. So because of that reason, to start going and cherry picking all these stocks with thousands of stocks, it's a little bit of a waste of time. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to focus on higher level. So let's quickly look at Palantir. Palantir is looking good. There is a retracement over here, If you can reclaim the 8-day, which is right now standing at 179-ish, then I would say 180, you could buy it, put your stop against Friday's low, and then let it go. One of the things I like about Palantir is that it's been really doing very, very well. And I think at some point it will replace either CrowdStrike or ServiceNow in the NYSE FANG index. I think it's coming. Usually they do these types of rebalances quarter end. So I would not be shocked if this goes in there. Just something to keep on your radar. Dash, looking interesting. It's a little bit bent. It's not broken, but it's a little interesting. Obviously broke the 8-day, broke the 21-day. Looks like it wants to get to the 50. I would be waiting for that. Or if it just gets a reclaim like you had in the S&P of the 8 and 21, maybe you can start buying it, use Friday's low as you're out. Okay. Let's get into some of the names. And Mag 7, FANG, Apple. It's okay. I think Apple has a whole host of other problems. It's number 3 in weighting in the S&P, so it's been knocked off its pedestal. I've been watching a lot of videos on where people are, at least in the tech industry, are looking at Apple, and Apple has its own set of problems when it comes to the whole AI and being late to the party. So I don't know if the stock, I think Buffett is completely out of this. So I don't know how much more juice this stock actually has. I think if they can surprise in September with some kind of good AI tool or good AI entrance, then maybe this ignites it. If not, they're lagging. And usually Apple is, to a large extent, a leader, and now they're lagging. And they're lagging in one of the most important parts of future technology, being AI, and they're really not in the game. So not really much to do there. Let's look at Microsoft. Microsoft looking good. This is actually very healthy. I actually like this. It's building this nice shelf. Granted, it's hovering in between the 8 and the 21-day, but that's fine. It's holding where it needs to hold. You could definitely look to buy this. I would use as my out, I would use, let's say 517 is what I would look to get out of this thing. I think $5 is enough risk. I think there's enough upside in here that if it goes, then I think you can get potentially 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1 on this thing. I would not hold it too much into a break of 515. $5 is a lot of money. Yeah, I understand that, but I think you got to give it room. It's a $520 stock. So you just have to give it a little bit of room. But I think if it breaks 515, I think you got to get out and reassess. You get out, you can always get back in. At least at 515, you're giving it a little bit of room. You could, if you want to be stingy, you could use 517, 516 and a half, but I wouldn't go more than that. And then 515 is your line in the sand. It breaks that, you're out, get out of Dodge. Amazon, looking good. This gap is interesting. We'll see how this plays out this week. It's interesting. It's not really doing a lot, but it's interesting. Google looking great. Definitely looks like it wants to take this out. I know I say definitely, I'm going to try and reword it. Looks like it wants to take out this 207. There could be some type of island reversal over here if there's a gap. So I would keep that as an option. I don't know if it's necessarily going to happen, but the setup is there where you would get let's say a gap up and get to a new all-time high, and we'll get into this 209, 210 area, and then get an island reversal. So I wouldn't be looking for it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it happens either. There was this kind of wacky news that came out on Wednesday, which got a lot of people stopped out. It had to do with the wallet. It was a little weird. The reaction was very, very funky, and it got a lot of people stopped out. And the reaction off that news really didn't make much sense. So for those of you that did get stopped out in it, sorry about that. It definitely sucks when it happens, especially when it takes you out and then it's only like a second, then it goes back up and then you're like, what the hell? So I feel your pain. Meta looking good as well. Holding the gap, it's riding. Is it a little bit long in the tooth? I don't think so. I think you could buy it. I would nibble on it and do it small, but I think this looks good. This looks good. NVIDIA's got earnings coming up. I'm not sure exactly when they are. I have to double check it. But this is really being run up into earnings like crazy. I think this is going to set up potentially, if this does not retrace, this could be a heartbreaker into earnings. So just keep that in mind. I wouldn't be chasing this. This is very hard to buy up here now because it's had a huge, massive run. Let's look at Netflix. Oops. Let's look at Netflix. Netflix, good recovery, looking great. I think it's found its bottom. Obviously, you're not going to buy it over here and use this as your out because that would be insane. But it does look good. I would be targeting, or at least for an ad, once it gets above this bar over here, this going back to July 17th, this high is about 1277. So I think 1280 starts to get it back where I think it starts to recover and start making its move back up. Looking great. Let's get CrowdStrike. We can get it to work. CrowdStrike, this is broken. No reason to be here. There's no reason I can waste too much time on it. ServiceNow, same deal. Broken. No real reason to be in here. You want to see turns. You don't want to be catching the bottom. You want to see turns that hold. Right now, they're both not looking amazing by any stretch of the imagination. There are better places to be. With that being said, take it easy. Be careful. Again, it's the last 2 weeks of August. Things slow down. Liquidity slows down. You could get trapped in liquidity pockets just because no one's around. The action will pick up in about 2 weeks after Labor Day. Now, granted, it's not magically that all of a sudden everything just starts going and liquidity is amazing. Everything is awesome, but life starts to become a little bit easier. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.